I'd like to make a motion. It's Guidelines for Public Input Edition. I've shortened this up from an earlier proposal. And just add the following to guidelines for public comment at Hooksett School Board meetings, and add number 5. It just says, comments must be addressed to the chair, not an individual Hooksett School Board member, and must not be personal or derogatory about the chair or any Hooksett School Board member. If I get a second, I'll speak to that.
I'll second.
Again, again, the only thing I'm trying to do here is try to standardize our policy a little bit closer to what other boards and bodies in town do. I got the idea from the town council. I did shorten it up though from the last time, because I looked at it again, and some of it could be cut back a little bit. So that's why it's a new motion. But it does the same. It's just it's a little clearer, I think.
Madam Chair? I will support this motion. I think it's fair and reasonable, and it is consistent with other boards.
Is there any other discussion?
I will not support it. At the end of the day, and we run into this issue before where you can't legislate common decency. I think if people come up, ideally they have some minimum standard of decency that they treat everybody with. And also it leaves folks in the public no way to redress the stuff that goes on when we're not here at the board meetings, that goes on during the week. And it leaves no way of the public making people aware of those things that happen during the week, that are sometimes board related and sometimes not board related.
Yes, Mr. Crowe.
Well, I would disagree with Mr. Denville. These folks have plenty of ways to express their views. We receive emails all the time. We have public email addresses. We have public phone numbers. This proceeding should be held with dignity. We're in a school, and I think having reasonable guidelines would help this meeting to progress and not slide into a place that we really shouldn't be. Talking about personal things or things that happen outside of this board. Those are issues that should be held and discussed outside of this board. So I'm in favor of this to make the public input more relevant to the business that this board sits for.
If there's no further discussion, I will call this to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
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 We are now at the point in the meeting where the public has an opportunity to address the board. The board has asked that we please try to stay within our 3 minutes.
I don't have my timer tonight, just so you know.
Let me first put Stacy Berry, 18 Nancy Lane. And let me first start by saying the reason I do it here is because when I email the board my concerns, I get threatening emails back from Mr. Liskars, and I would rather do it here where everybody can hear what I have to say. Our reputation in Hooksett is at great risk due to the choices and behaviors of Mr. Liskar. It is unfortunate that the distress his behavior has put on our community, our administration, and on many families inside and outside of Hooksett. I now fear for the damages his choices are creating within our school system and in other communities where our children are trying to make new friends and establish themselves. I feel his erratic behavior needs to be addressed by this board in an attempt to limit any further liability to our community and district. This is not about our current high school situation. It is strictly about being qualified to hold a school board position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry.
Jason Hyde, 36 Edgewater Drive. So I have a limited amount of time. I'm going to talk fast, so make sure you listen fast. Twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row, 3 of you have decided that it's okay for members of the public to come up here and not address the chair, but address you individually. Well, since you've done that twice now, let's go ahead and address you individually. You made your bed and now you're going to lie in it for the second week in a row. Don't follow the path that the rest of the town board follows. Why would you want to do that? Why would we want consistency? Why would we want the chairman of this board to have the ability to say to a member of the public who is attacking a member of this board, including you, sir, who spoke against this motion? Why would you want the chairman to be able to control that? Well, it seems to me that if we want the chairman to have the ability to make sure that the people in the public are addressing this board with matters that are involved in this board, not outside of this board, nobody should come up here and talk about things that happen outside of this board. That's not what this board has the ability or the bailiwick to address. Social media has nothing to do with this board. You don't like it, don't read it. You don't like what's on the radio, change the station. You don't like what's on the TV, get the clicker. You don't have to read that stuff. You also don't have to write editorials assigning particular behavioral traits to your fellow board members, misogynistic, because the chairman happens to be a single mother and they want to extend the meeting. Now, with all due respect to Madam Chairman, she signed up for this. She's the chairman of the board. She ran for election. She was elected. She is being paid to sit there and be the chairman of the board. And I don't mean to attack you, man. Don't misunderstand. The point is, when Mr. Pearl, at least, makes a motion to extend the meeting and he speaks to that motion, it is usually because the meeting has run long and you are required to extend the meeting by a vote. If you don't do that, the board is not doing its job. They're not following proper policies and procedures. Never once have I heard either one of these gentlemen say, I want to extend the meeting because Madam Chairman is a single mother and I want to keep her here later. I mean, you come up here, you write this editorial claiming that you don't want this kind of behavior to happen, and yet you engage in it in the newspaper. Height of hypocrisy, sir. The height of it. As far as the chaos that the minority, probably 9% of the time, the minority creates the chaos and whatnot. I would submit that when you vote for a one-year agreement that is effective this year, that forces 75 kids to go to Pinkerton, when kids have already chosen to go somewhere else, and you don't know what number wants to go to
Mr.
Pinkerton.
Hyde, your 3 minutes is up.
And I have 60 seconds.
That is up to the will of the board, and that is what I have standardly done as the chair.
No.
David said close a couple sentences. I'm fine with that.
Yes, yes. I would say that voting for an agreement before you know the number of kids who actually want to go to Pinkerton, and then voting for a lottery to force kids who might not want to go there, that creates chaos. That creates angst. That creates aggravation. Now, thankfully, 3 members, Ms. Axton, Mr. Liskar, and Mr. Pearl, on his motion, voted to ask Pinkerton to waive that, and thankfully they did. So thank the 3 of you for doing that, because that was the right thing to do. You, sir, with your conflict of interest, because you can benefit directly this
Thank
year
more
in your
than 1 or
wallet.
2 sentences, you're finished, Mr. Hyde.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You went 4 minutes.
Hi, Alyssa L., 27 Barberry Street. I just wanted to read into the record tonight an email that I sent to the school board earlier this week. And it said, "Dear Board and Dr. Littlefield, after reading more disturbing emails sent by Mr. Liskars, I am concerned that he is going to invoke lawsuits against the town of Hooksett. In order to prevent this from happening, I am asking you to do the following. 1, remove Mr. Liskars from all school board committees that he currently serves on. 2, revoke Mr. Liskars' clerk status. 3, vote to censure Mr. Liskars. And 4, have a vote of no confidence against Mr. Liskars. I thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Thank you."
Hi, Linda Denbo, 8 Nancy Lane. I'm here tonight to express my deep concerns regarding a school board member's allegations, discussions, references to and about me, a private citizen, as well as allegations, discussions, and references to and about my children, all made in public and on social media. It's hard to tell if these allegations and references and statements are made as a school board member or if John Liscars is making those statements as an individual. But either way, the behavior and actions are inappropriate, unethical, and unbecoming of a school board member. I'd like to make a request that this board draft and adopt a policy that strictly prohibits a school board member, whether they're acting as such or as an individual, in an individual capacity, from making any kinds of statements or references, and whether those statements or references mention a citizen or minor child by name or by such other reference as a wife, son, and daughter, etc., whether it be in the public or other social media forum. I'd also suggest that when drafting such a policy, that you incorporate language that explicitly sets forth what the penalty is for violating such policy. School members should be held at the highest standard of ethics and code of conduct. School board members making allegations, assumptions, judgments, and or statements concerning private citizens and or specifically minor children is reprehensible. Right now, you have a school board member who feels as if he can express his First Amendment rights to free speech to say whatever he wants about whoever he wants, including a minor child in our district. This is morally and ethically inappropriate and just plain wrong. I understand your frustration to curb this behavior because this person is doing so outside of the school board setting. However, you have all taken an oath, and I believe that you have a duty to do anything and everything in your power to protect the students and the rights of these students in this district. I ask that you put yourself in my shoes and picture your child or your children being the target and the subject of repeated references in social media posts in public. What would you do as a parent to protect the privacy and rights of your child? What should you do as a school board member to protect the privacy and the rights of a child in your district? Do the right thing. Take a bold step and go on record to state that this behavior and the actions will not be tolerated, and draft a policy to prohibit the behavior and actions, and then outline the steps that will be taken if the policy is violated. In doing so, you might just be taking steps to protect this district from any unforeseen litigation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Denbo. Is there anyone else at this time who would like to address the Hooksett School Board? We typically
I brought my glasses this time. Nicolette, 9 Evelyn Street. So, the reason I've come here tonight is in response, Mr. Denbo, to your editorial letter in the banner. First of all, I want to make it clear that I do not condone bad behavior by anybody. I'm not here to defend anyone. I'm not here to take sides with anyone. And just for clarity's sake, because unfortunately it gets lost on a number of people in this town, I have no stake in this game because I wrote a check to send my son to a private school. So I'm not on either side of this issue other than the taxpayer's side, and that's where most of my concerns and questions to this board have been over time. With that said, I do agree with you when you make the statements that people have been vilified on social media because they disagree with points of view. You stated that people exhibit vile behavior towards anyone who disagrees, and you empathize with folks who are scared to stand up for fear of reprisal for themselves or for their child. As you know, Bill, and I know this all too well from other things in this town that have happened. So I think it's ironic that you write that. But with that said, I want to make it clear, social media is merely a forum where people can stream their own consciousness without filter. It brings to mind the bullying PSA where the girl comes into someone's family kitchen and starts, speaking very badly about the young girl. And the PSA ends where it says, if you wouldn't say it in person, don't say it online. But I'm going to echo the sentiments of Mr. Hyde when I say that I really don't care about social media in this form. This is my school board. I want them addressing school issues and educational issues and not monitoring social media. I don't care. You don't like it, don't read it. Okay? That's the way I feel. But with that said, I'm just going to point out something that a lot of people think that bad behavior is only by a few. Well, let me tell you, it's by quite a few. I have a post here that was in response, social media post, that was in response to a question I asked back in November about the MOU for Londonderry. The response was by a Facebook page called MW Caster that I believe is run by Chrissy Caster, a self-proclaimed special ed advocate. She wrote, and I quote, "Yo, tard Ray my clit to answer your effing question because Hooksett is
Excuse me, that's
negotiating."
inappropriate for a Hooksett school board meeting. If we're not supposed to be paying attention to social media, you shouldn't be reading it for someone who is not here to defend themselves or what they
Point
posted.
of order, Madam Chair, you're not to argue point of order. You're not to argue with public input. If you want to stop it because it's inappropriate, that's one thing. But no one else was here to
I find that
defend,
inappropriate.
no one else was here to defend themselves either.
I find that inappropriate for you to
Okay.
read into the record.
And I'll finish by saying, you stupid F. Okay, I'll let people figure that out for themselves. The point is, this doesn't bother me, because I really don't care what anybody in this town thinks of me or wants to write on social media. I'm gonna speak my mind, I'm gonna do what I believe is the right thing to do, and that's what this board ought to do. So, why don't we all grow up in this town, including all the people in this audience and all the people at home, and stop writing this stuff. And if you're gonna write it, and you don't like it, don't read it. Do your jobs, okay? These school board members have thick skin. Do what your mother taught you when you were young. If you don't like what people say about you, ignore them. Ignore them, Phil. Just ignore them and move on. Simple as that. It's an easy thing to do. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Is there any public input right now? We're not.
I just want to make just a quick, my motion last week would have covered exactly what you were talking about.
Actually, we're in public input and there's a member of the public here to
Well,
speak.
I'm just, because
Nope,
you got
the
excited
public-
about it.
The public is here to speak.
Thank you. Yvonne Preston, 6 North Beach. I just want to put into the record that Chrissy Pastor is not a school board member. And as unfortunate as that comment may have been, and any other comments that people may make that are derogatory, that's not the point of what everyone is saying. A lot of people are upset that somebody who is signing his name as school board clerk, now president of Uganda, is making comments to people that are inappropriate. And if he's going to sign his name as school board clerk, then it should be public knowledge. That's my opinion, and I just wanted to express it. Not everybody speaks in those ways. People have good points, and people have good opinions. Unfortunately, when they're disagreed with by Mr. Listars, it's an unfortunate result, an unfortunate end in those social media sites. If he doesn't want to sign his name as school board clerk, he can say whatever he wants, and I will never, ever bring it up here. But I'm just putting it into record that Chrissy Castor is not a school board member. And, you know, that has nothing to do with anything that I am saying, you know, to relation to what Mr. Liscar says on social media. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public who would like to address the Hooksett School Board?
Good evening, Mark Weagle. I wasn't going to say anything, but I just want to reply to the comment that was just made. Regardless of what, I would agree that any elected official should be held to a higher standard. But by the same token, it doesn't mean that if you're not elected official or appointed official, that you can bring yourself into the mud and attack everybody as well. If you want to be held to the same standards and not be criticized yourself, then don't criticize others whether they're elected or not. Whether somebody's an elected official or not doesn't give other people a license, because they're not elected, to attack others personally. And by the same token, I guess I want to address, Madam Chair, is that my concern over lately, as I'm reading and I'm not responding anymore, is I don't believe that, I believe every single school board member is an individual personality here, and they should be accountable for every single action and statements that they made. But there should be no linkage between other people here, okay? And there is linkage happening, and there's a perception in town that there's a linkage happening between Mr. Pearl and Mr. Liscars. I believe Mr. Liscars does that on purpose with Mr. Pearl, and I think that's unfair. I believe Mr. Pearl has done a tremendous job, motions after motions, presenting ideas to the school board, which is what the school board is required to do. And yes, everyone listens to it, and everyone may or may not make those discussions, but it's not fair to have him being criticized for the actions of Mr. Liscars. Mr. Liscars is not Mr. Pearl, Mr. Pearl is not Mr. Liscars, and I wish everybody in this audience and reading on social media would understand that and appreciate the work that all school board members do, especially Mr. Pearl, in advancing all these discussions over the course of the year that's been happening. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else at this time that would like to address the House and School Board?